The race is on to save the UK's last blast furnaces being switched off for good. The government passed emergency legislation over the weekend to take control of Scunthorpe Steelworks.
The furnaces are going to keep firing up.
This afternoon, a confident-sounding Deputy Prime Minister met union bosses and workers at the plant. The burning question is around supplying the raw materials crucial to keeping the furnaces going, like coking coal and iron ore, with a stockpile docked just 20 miles away at Immingham Port.
We've got the raw materials, they've been paid for, and we're confident that the furnaces will continue to fire. We've taken the action we've taken over the weekend. It was important that we did that. We secured the site. We've got a new CEO and management team here, and we're confident that they'll be able to continue into the future.
The Chinese owners of British Steel, Jingye, says the Scunthorpe site is losing £700,000 a day. The government says the firm had been selling off raw materials as well as not ordering more. Suggestions of industrial sabotage by Jingye have been rejected by Downing Street. Questions linger, though, about why a Chinese company was ever allowed to take charge of the UK's last site making virgin steel, the strongest type that there is.
It's always dangerous to put critical infrastructure, major national industries in the hands of foreign companies.
What impact do you think this could have then on the future relations between the UK and China?
Current Labour government is very keen to develop and strengthen economic relations with China, particularly under the difficult economic circumstances. But but this event could have a significant impact on how UK-China economic relations will develop.
And in uncertain times, this message from Beijing could hardly have been clearer.
It is hoped that the British government will treat Chinese enterprises fairly and impartially and protect their legitimate rights and avoid politicising economic and trade cooperation, so as not to affect the confidence of Chinese enterprises in investing in the UK.
So a short-term reprieve for Scunthorpe and its 2,700 steelworkers, but in the long term, an industrial transition seems inevitable.
Will it be here forever? Probably not. Will we have electric arc at some point? Yes, I think we probably will. But the government stepping in and taking control now means that we have a plan to have a longer transition to do that, which will help protect jobs and ease the transition from blast furnaces to electric arc.
What that transition looks like and who funds it is unclear. The government says it's looking for private investors. Without one, full-scale nationalisation might be the only option. For all the positive noises coming out of the government and unions today, the reality is that the future of Scunthorpe Steelworks isn't actually all that secure. For a starter, some might question what sort of company is going to invest in a site that is, frankly, hemorrhaging money. Viewed in that way, nationalisation might seem more likely. It would cost the taxpayer money and it could set a precedent. Scotland's First Minister, John Swinney, has today called for Grangemouth oil refinery to be nationalised in light of the UK intervention here. As for Chinese ownership in UK infrastructure, it's not just here, there are other examples. Take the Chinese company that has a stake in Hinkley Point C nuclear power station, for instance. So it's not necessarily as simple as saying no more Chinese ownership. China, of course, produces more steel than any other country in the world. If this plant closes, then the UK becomes the only member of the G7 without the ability to make steel from scratch.
Andrew Mishra. Well, joining me now is the former Conservative Party leader, Ian Duncan-Smith. He chairs the Parliamentary Cross-Party Alliance on China. So China says don't politicise trade cooperation. Do you think Britain should politicise it?
Well, let's start from where we should be. We should be looking, since the government has finally accepted that we need to spend more on defence, we need to build up our armed forces, which have been allowed to fall away quite considerably, and that therefore strategic defence decisions need to be made. One of those is making sure that some of our industries are then defined as strategic industries. the base industries that without which we simply won't be able to make the kind of things that we need to make our defense forces stronger. And one of those, of course, is steelmaking, which is the very basis of a huge amount of what goes into aircraft, tanks, cars, trucks, etc. These are very important decisions. And therefore, if we're looking at this, what the government should now do is declare those industries that they believe to be strategic industries, which therefore require a slightly different approach than just the marketplace. And that would then say to us, well, who do we think are the threats? And one of those threats I am absolutely certain of is China. After all, China's busy supporting Russia in the war. They've invaded the South China Seas against the UN. They've threatened to invade Taiwan. They carry out genocide in Xinjiang. I mean, there's a list of things that they're doing, and they also distort all the markets. So they are a threat to us and to all our allies. And therefore, if that's the case, we need to have strategic decisions on the key industries.
So what does that mean for any industries that that would be on that list, that do have Chinese investments? Are you saying the government should take them all over?
No, it's not a case of taking them over particularly. I mean, if they have to, that's a decision they would have to make. But I've already, for some years now, been pointing out that when China invests in companies, etc., essentially they strip them out. And one of the biggest problems we've had, and I've had this argument with the Conservative Party for some time, IPAC, the organization you referred to, which I'm one of the co-chairs on, so was Rubio, but it's now got 40 countries involved, and they share this view. And the reality is what we argued about was that you do not need to have to go to China to get them to invest in companies like our nuclear industries. Yeah. We've already had some of their investments taken out as a result of our actions. So we need to look for other more reliable sources of income.
But what do you do about those industries where China is invested right now? I mean, how do you force them out?
Well, you simply say that it's no longer, this is the key, was actually to declare them in the upper tier of the foreign influence registration scheme.
Well, so they would have to sell.
Well, if they were there, then they're defined as a threat. That's what the last government was about to do. I'd argued with them, but they didn't get to it at the time the election was taking place, and now the government's going in the opposite direction. I promise you, there's nothing but pain down the road of trying to pretend that somehow China can be treated as a friend and a fellow partner when it comes to industry.
No, I'm just trying to follow your logic as to what it actually means in terms of, because China owns a whole host of things. How would you force it to actually let go of those?
But once you take a strategic decision that this particular country is a threat, then those organizations that come under their control and their banks are not allowed to invest in key strategic industries. It's as simple as that.
But what about the ones they hold? Would the government have to buy them out? I mean, I'm trying to work out whether this would cost money. Would it cost the taxpayer?
The government says they have to then sell those holdings. And they then have to sell them to countries or organizations that are considered to be okay by the UK and not in that threat category. That is what you have to do if you're going to deal with countries like this. And the reality is we need to get on with it.
Right, but we then have the two biggest economies in the world as either unreliable partners or not partners at all. I mean, it's over 40% of the world economy.
What other difficulties you have with the United States as one decision of one political party in power or not, it's not the same as China. It's a democracy with the rule of law. Whatever else you think about it, they have ways of sorting things out, but in a way that it binds by the rule of law. China's complete opposite. So China is a threat militarily. It's a threat economically. It trashes the WTO rules by saying that it's a developing nation, therefore it doesn't obey them. It means it subsidizes their businesses so that they can come in much cheaper than any other commercial company. It's trashed industries such as the telecoms industry, which is what they originally, Huawei, were going to get our most precious telecom system, the 5G one, until we campaigned against it and forced the government to recognize that Huawei was a threat, which has now been declared. So you can't do this piecemeal. You have to start by saying, is this country that we are dealing with capable of being dealt with on a proper and fair basis? The answer to that is categorically no in China's case.
Ian Duncan-Smith, thank you very much for joining us.